How's it going, boys and girls? Hope we have audio. We have audio. It is hustleisthehack.com podcast. It is Pierre Hulsebus, and we are here in the home studio streaming live on the interwebs. We are cocked and locked and ready to rock. And hopefully this is all going to work just fine. I am thinking I have everything, but let's hopefully, I've never done this one before. This is a little different than our typical format because I'm concurrently streaming live and recording the podcast, and I have just a little different format that we're doing today. So how exciting is this for today? Hustleisthehack.com is the website. My name is Pierre Hulsebus, and who am I? Who am I? What am I here to do? Well, you are ready to just have an awesome, I hope you're going to have an awesome day during the next 30, well, actually, it's going to be way more than 30 minutes, let me tell you that. We're going to be getting you some help. We're going to help get your sales game on. We're going to help you identify and acquire and retain the most valuable asset that you can have in business. And what is that, Pierre? What is that? Is that a cool office? No. Is that, let's say, maybe awesome product? Maybe. Is it a nice building? No, it's not. No, it's not. It's none of those things. It's not even your awesome staff that you have. What it is customers. And nothing happens in business until you have a customer. Nothing happens until somebody sells something. And so whoever dies with the most customers wins. All of this starts with customers, and in the end, it sadly comes to a crashing end when you don't have any more customers. So whoever dies with the most customers win. That's how the deal. What I do, we have a lot of information that we're going to share today, and we're going to go through a whole bunch of different fun things. We take different sales methodologies and tips and tricks and add a pinch of my 30 years of sales experience in technology and mix that all together in my patent pending Pierre stack of stuff. And we come out and spit out this just great, awesome analysis, and all in the period, of this live streamed podcast. So, and then, so if you're listening to it on audio, you can also check it out on YouTube. And so here we are on the YouTube's live right now. And this is we have here's the trick. Here's the trick. I got to tell you something. So if you're thinking about doing podcast or anything like this, what you're going to find is, you don't go from 0 to 1 million quickly. Everybody grows their channel slowly. So at the very beginning, it is a little bit of a grind. You have to get a lot of content out, and you have to, and you're not going to have a lot of interaction with people. So you kind of have to stick with it. And so that's the whole thing. It's kind of sticking with it, and going for it. And so, so that's the idea here. Is that we're going to give you guys some great time and enjoy our time together. So with that said, we're going to take a quick little break on the podcast. If you're watching on the YouTubes, we're going to have a little extra bonus content here for you while we do that. So with that said, we'll be right back after this important message from our sponsor. So I hope you're having a great day. So we're on the stream right now. And so like I said, what we do is the podcast. And so the podcast is both audio and this version of streaming. And I thought, the streaming part would be nice to kind of see what we're doing from how we create the podcast, how it all goes together. So right now we're basically in a little bit of a break. And so there's advertisement that's happening right now. And now we're going to come back from that. So I got to get my music queued up for my next little bit of music. And so let's go there. That looks good. We're going to do that one. Ray and Ray. All right. And we're back. Hey everybody, we are back. Oh, this is kind of a little bit of a downer song, isn't it? All the time. This is the instrumental version by Ray and Ray. So let's maybe, there we go. Hey, there's a Jingly Bell song. That's a little more appropriate. So anyways, hope you're having a great day. My name again, Pierre Holsabus, and this is the podcast Hustle is the Hack. You can go to my website, hustleisthehack.com, and see the website, read the website. It's so awesome and phenomenal that you will just find it to be just fascinating and exciting and all of that kind of stuff. So, all right, let's keep the ball rolling here. A lot of buttons to push and stuff like that. We're going to put you in the Sales Cafe. So the Sales Cafe is where we sit down and have a little cup of coffee. And today we're going to talk about the top 10 sales tips for pros. We got the top 10 sales tips. We've got what else is on the rundown for today. We got to 10 tips. We're going to talk about some coaching, sales coaching. We're going to talk about universal truths, the technology universal truths. We're going to go also and answer a question. And I'm going to take a question live here. I haven't looked at the question, and we're going to see how good I do in terms of answering this question spontaneously. So I haven't really considered I just copied and pasted the question that I got from a listener this week. So, all right. So I haven't even looked at the question. So we'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can do if it works out. All right. So the first thing that we're going to go through is, what are some top 10 tips for sales professionals? And, the thing is, I mentioned this before, the tips and tricks is kind of a little bit of a fun thing to kind of go through because, we can gather nuggets of truth from lots of different people's things. And so sometimes it just helps to gather information and then kind of sort through it and rationalize it for your own situation and what you're doing on. So last week we talked about sales tips for beginners. And this time I want to talk about let's say, kind of once you get going in selling, what are some of the things? So the first, those tips really related to the sales dialogue. There's really two components, or maybe three components of selling that we have to think about. One is the methodology that we use, kind of what is, how do we keep track of stuff? And this is what we'll talk about right now. But the other part is the dialogue. Really, I typically separate those two. When you read all of the literature around selling and sales methodologies and, sales techniques, you can really break it down into those two components. One is the dialogue that we use to be a persuasive speaker, to understand our products and to build up a certain knowledge and expertise around a customer's maybe their problems or situations. We have this kind of interaction that we do. And that's not methodology. That's just more how do you have a good conversation and how are you armed, so to speak, with the information that you need to get the stuff you need out of the conversation so you can qualify the customer and get into their empathetic kind of mind and be able to generate a proposal or some reasonable ideas. Creativity and empathy, I will always argue, as being the two most important parts of selling that we can do today. It's creating a trust that we have with the people that we're talking to and the interaction that we're talking to. I'm fiddling around with my hat here. Sorry. Anyways, so there's that. And so the second part of that, so we talked about that last week. Now we're going to talk about kind of some of the tricks, if you will, in terms of being an effective salesperson. And these deal with techniques that we use to manage time, those types of things. So that's the first one. The first thing that you really need to do to be successful in this whole endeavor isn't just, having a good dialogue with folks and whatnot, but as a salesperson, as a professional, these are skills you'll want to develop. So a long time ago, I was in consulting, and my boss at the time told me, because I was just, let's say, not filling out all the paperwork, let's say, and doing all the follow through. I loved having the great dialogue with the customer and doing the work of the customer, but I wasn't getting my billing in time and stuff like that in place. And so he said that's what a professional is. A professional does what is necessary, not just what is fun to do or what is awesome to do, but what is necessary. That's how you define a professional. So time management is probably the biggest one here. It's no secret that in sales, time is money, baby. As such, treat blocks of your calendar like the precious commodity that they are. And the life of a salesperson a lot of times feels like a juggling act, and you've got lots of different things in the air going on. And it's important strategy really to prioritize your time and make the most you have in the day. And so think through the most optimal times that you're going to be having dialogue with customers. They don't want to get a call at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they probably are, 5 o'clock in the afternoon not wanting to take a call from you if you're in the business world. You have to understand that there's a certain time that they want to have a dialogue with you. And so what you can do is you can prioritize your time in such a way to maximize those blocks of time. Let's say 9 o'clock on a Monday morning to maybe 11:30, and that's prime time customer discussion. So I'm not going to go to meetings. I am not going to be reading any product information or literature. I'm going to be doing my prospecting and reaching out to customers and doing my follow-ups during those prime time times when they're at their high energy, and I'm getting them while they're trying to plan their week and think about their day. So, those kind of Monday morning, Tuesday morning type of activities are really great. And so obviously you need to kind of keep track, and you have to know your customers. If we're selling insurance to people, and it's personal insurance, and we don't want to be calling them necessarily in the middle of the day. You're going to get their voicemail because they're working. And but maybe that's what you're looking for. Maybe you're just looking to land in their voicemail. So then you do call them. But it's really important to get all of the timing appropriate for when, when's the prime time to call. So managing your time effectively, there's never been also another time like we have in today's world where we are able to time shift and take things that are less important and move them off to hours of the day that aren't kind of say prime time hours of the day. The company I work for, the little company here I talk about every once in a while, Microsoft. I work for Microsoft. We put in, and it's a part of our culture internally, to put we call focus hours on our time. And in fact, our system actually prompts us as employees if we don't have focus time on our schedule. So I usually try to plan 2-hour blocks of time as focus time. And so I won't take meetings during that time. I'm not really getting interrupted by anybody. It's me building things and working on stuff. And those are the things that I'm measured on in many ways. So it's easy. There's so many things to distract us. And so good salesperson understands their schedules. They look at the morning. They have a plan going into the day. One of the major losses salespeople experience is getting caught up in conversations with customers. It's important to connect with customers and peers on a friendly level, and equally important to know when to cut to the chase. So a lot of times, this is so true. Salespeople are like athletes in some ways. Athletes love to play the game of whatever they're playing. Let's say I'm a baseball player, and I love to play baseball. And so when we get into the further up the leagues, we start to have this, we're in it for fun. We start as a kid, we love to play, and then we get a little bit of competitive spirit. And then we're told, it's just a game. We're just told it's just a game. And then later on, when someone gets to be a professional, it's more than just a game. It's actually a job. And the expectations are that, you are there to win. And so some people can't get to that level in selling. They enjoy the prospecting process, or just I'm a people person, so they get into talking to the people all the time. And so it's more about playing and enjoying the dialogue part but not about the closing part. And so we have to manage that kind of concept that we're in it to win. Like that's part of the deal when you're selling. It's great to make friends and it's good to talk about products and stuff like that. And talk about issues and build relationships. All of that is important. And so I'm not saying don't do that, but you have to know when you want to cut to the chase and qualify and then move on. And so it's not about just enjoying the time that we have with people or people really interested in what we have to say. It's also, you have to close some business. You got to land some planes here. And so when conversation's a bit far away from business, you can politely offer up maybe a future time to get back on the personal side of the conversation. Go have a cup of coffee with them at lunch. Those are all great ideas. But this lets you kind of move on to the next customer or the next prospect. So it depends on where you're at in the dialogue and the type of customers you have. And there's a lot of things that go into this, but I just want to make sure that, you have this concept in the back of your head that, there's a measurement that you're going to have in terms of your effectiveness, and managing your time effectively is so important. So focus on qualifying and closing. Like those are the things. So that's like we're showing in the little graphic, that's the pictures of dead presidents. That's getting you a little more cash. It doesn't mean you should neglect clients, but it's important that your client list, you maximize the use of your time, and that you're using the right tools to organize your time and to keep track of it. And so this has really helped. There's so many tools out there. I'm not going to talk about a lot of tools right now. There's just so many out there that can kind of keep track of your time. And the very basic level is just getting a legal pad and just putting an hour blocks in the day, and then just checking off how many calls you had during that time, or keeping track of it in 15-minute blocks of time. It's kind of difficult to context shift. This is the part that a lot of people don't quite understand. We call it context shifting. And so if I'm not focused, let's say, on solving a particular issue and focused on this problem, and I just kind of wander back and forth around different things, keep coming back to this, that interruption or that distraction that I have to get back on task takes a couple minutes to get back kind of in the mindset. Now, technical people have this all the time. So when I do technical work often, so I'm developing something, I'm building something, and a lot of it involves getting it up in your cranium, imagining what you're going to build. And it's like a house of cards. You start stacking all the things and you're thinking, okay, this is where it's going to go, and then I have to do this, and you're kind of breaking it down. And a lot of that thinking that you're doing is what is awesome about kind of the technical work of programming and this kind of stuff, building systems. Now, what happens though is if in the middle of that kind of process I get interrupted, then what occurs is I have to start all over again. So it takes a couple more minutes. So if I get a call or get a chat or something like that, or an email pops up or my phone buzzes or any other distraction that comes, that's when you get you start losing effectiveness. So maybe something that might take an hour to 2 hours might actually take an entire day, because every time I get interrupted, it takes me time to get back on task. And so you need to organize not only your space in your world so that you can take that time to focus on the task at hand. So that is number 2. Gets into the next one. Number 2. What is number 2? Well, let's wave our little magic wand and say leveraging the right technology. I am a tech guy, so I love this kind of stuff. There's so many different now. This is one thing you need to use the right technology to support number 1, which is staying effective. So you don't want that to be a distraction. You don't want it to be a distraction. So you don't want the tech to be a distraction. It needs to work with your flow. And actually, that's the biggest trick when it comes down to any sort of systems that if I'm a sales director or a business owner that I'm going to impose on people, it needs to work with their, it needs to support them, not be a way to keep track of what they're doing and make sure that they're done what they need to get done. It's helping them support them. And so, there's Google Calendar, there's Outlook Calendar, calendar. There's all sorts of different systems that are out there that will help you kind of manage that time. For prospecting tools, I am a firm believer in LinkedIn Sales Navigator. If you're in selling, I think it's $20 a month or something. If your company isn't paying for that, I would just go and buy that. That allows you basically to research any company on LinkedIn, and you can go through an entire a boatload of information about what a customer's background is, and it's awesome. It's awesome. It's a really great way for you to understand what's going on in the business. And so hey, here we go. Let me, if you're online here, you're going to take a sec. If you're, I apologize if you're listening to the podcast, but let's, why don't just take a look at it for a sec here. We're looking here at Sales Navigator, and so let's get that back up there. Sorry. Sales Navigator is an application from LinkedIn, and what it does is it allows you to kind of zoom in here. It allows me to kind of see who I'm following, what they're doing, and it also gives us a little bit of understanding of if I want to do a little research on an account. So let me just pick a random account. How about, I'll just pick one here. This Covistic. Okay, Covistic is a company, and so I can go see who in my network is at Covistic, and so I'm able to research and look at all these people that are potentially in the network. I can look at it from an account view, so I could reach out to anybody of these. This indicator is that I can put them in my CRM system. There's a little dot for me to allow to add them to my CRM system. If I go to the account results, now I have an access to this account here. And so now I can go and look. I'm able to view, they're all 178 employees of this company who are in the network. I can look at some insights. The system will give me insights around the company. What's their, because I work for this company here, so what's their interest in this? But more importantly, this is the stuff I'm looking at. What's their distribution? This is such a forward-leading indicator of, are they growing? Are they struggling in growth? What are their job openings? So a lot of times we're looking at trying to help a company with, people and issues around who they're hiring and some of the challenges, so we can help address some of those growth. We can see the distribution. This is an IT company, so how many folks are in engineering? I'm always interested in IT companies. When I look at them, how many people are actually in engineering? This is a consulting firm. So there's actually 7% of their folks, just a small amount of their people that are in IT. The other part of their company are, so there's IT people, so that's what they sell, is IT services. And then we have people that are involved in business development and consulting and project management. So about half their company, a little more actually than half their company, is involved in the delivery of service, and the other half is involved in the actual sales or business development component. So we're able to kind of get a sense of this. What are their competitors like? Who are other companies that are like those type of companies? Are there new articles? So what are they talking about? What are the things that are interesting to them? So I can go and look through any articles that have been posted by their organization. So if there's job openings or any sort of alerts, I can visit their website and all of this kind of stuff. So this is the type of information that you're able to get in LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And so if you're in business to business selling, this is an incredible tool. It's an incredible tool to be able to see all of that kind of stuff. Let's go. That's right. We're back, and we're back. There we are. And so leveraging the right technology, LinkedIn Sales Navigator is just a really, really helpful one as looking at potential customers and people individually. So if you're in business to business selling or in the business community, it's well worth the effort for that. And all of those integrate with, like we're saying, the kind of CRM systems that we might be working with. So. All right, so leveraging the right technology. That's very basic tech that we're talking about here, some pretty basic one. There is a lot more sophisticated technology depending on the sales types of stuff that you're doing and where you're going with your selling and what's happening there. So, whether that is tech around devices like, your phones, there's other devices like laptops and presentation software and those types of things. So we'll dive in a little more as we get into some of these advanced things. But when you think about technology, at the end of the day, the whole thing with tech is that it is supposed to support you as a person. It's supposed to enhance your ability to be more productive in your things that you're measured at, and not to be a big nanny over keeping track of where you're at and or what you're doing. No other department in the company has that type of tracking. We don't keep track. So sales is one of those that sometimes can get a little overburdened. Sales managers and directors and business owners have this desire to kind of peek into what people are doing. And so they force people to comply a lot of times with CRM kind of mandates. If it's not in the system, it doesn't exist. And I want you to keep track of all your calls and, everybody you talk to in the entire history. And yet that same owner would never ask that of the HR department. I want to know every resume that you look at, and I want to see the statistics around every call that you have with everyone and how long those calls take. And just like, and you don't go to the accounting department, we're going to now compensate you based on how many invoices you send out every quarter. Like, it doesn't work like that. And yet we, take this incredibly creative and empathetic team that we hired with good judgment. Those would be the salespeople. And then you basically just micromanage them through software. And that's not what you want to do. And that's why CRM projects fail often. And so at the end of the day, it's all about supporting you as a salesperson, and complying is secondary thing. At the end of the day, it's bringing in the bucks. That's what, like I said, nothing happens until somebody sells something. So I don't want to get you jaded on systems, because I love those systems and made a career on those systems. But too often we see people just, imposing systems on folks, not really being very helpful. And so there has to be something in it for the salesperson to help them organize themselves. All right. So number 4 on the list, we're going down the list today. Number 4, never stop prospecting. That is number 4. In sales, there's no such thing as resting on your laurels. Complacency is never really rewarded in selling. And in order to enjoy that continued success as a salesperson, it's important to always have a new business on the horizon. Look at what the next thing that you're working on, and that is because you need to have irons in the fire. Like by the technology and systems that we have and that we just talked about, keeping track of our sales opportunities, we know that we don't close every one of them. So we know that we need to have X amount of opportunities that they're working on that are outside of the attainment goals that we want to have. So let's say our goal is to have 100 closed sales in a year, and it takes, let's just imagine, 1 year in an average to sell things, and we only close typically a quarter of the deals that we propose. That means I have to have 400 proposals. So I need to be working my butt off to get those numbers in there. And so sometimes that's the quote unquote, when people talk about it's a numbers game, sometimes it is a numbers game, quite frankly. Now, with that said, you want to have your judgment, and that's your baseline when you're starting. You can improve that quote to close ratio by doing better qualifications and not maybe issuing as many proposals. And what you can find is if I reduce the amount of proposing to unqualified customers, customers, that gives me more time to talk to better customers. And so it's this almost geometric improvement that you can have when you're proposing and whatnot. So the last team that I worked on, our close rate was 80%. If my team got involved, we were an 80% close. So we were very stringent in terms of who we talked to. We had very high standards. We weren't interested in just, kind of chewing the fat and kind of teaching people how the systems work. We only talked to people that were in the funnel in terms of ready to buy. They had a bias towards us. They had a lot, propensity to buy was very high. They had all the right financial numbers, and we were very picky in terms of what our team did. And so we had this tremendously high close rate. And anytime we got asked to do a deal or get involved in deals that were met our high criteria, we didn't have the success that it was like self-fulfilling prophecy. Anyways, and so that was just because we were super great at qualifying and we had very high standards. And so not everybody has that ability to do that. Smaller companies have, your sales organization is also doing marketing, and you're working through the life cycle of a customer. So you're maybe talking to them earlier on in their buying cycle, and they're not ready to buy yet. And so you put them in your system for follow up, and you keep a good friendly relationship with them. That is selling. So that's okay. So this is the prospecting component. Consider who we're reaching out to and prospect other businesses. Often it's wiser to aim higher in an organization, as the decision makers are the ones who are more willing to buy when they're convinced that your product can help them in some way. Don't aim low. So when you're doing that prospecting, start at the top, work your way down in the organization, and look for that kind of significant business conversation that you're having. Your pipeline should never be empty. And so if you don't have like a set of customers right now that you're engaged in, prospecting is really about not only having, here's my current ones, but also here's my ideal ones. So you might have marketing efforts that are sending you leads, and I didn't really qualify these yet. And that's part of the job, is to qualify them and to kind of do the prospecting in that list of leads that you have. But the secondary thing that you want to do, or actually in many ways the primary thing that you want to do, is you have your target customers, your ideal customers that you're looking for, and you're going out there and pursuing those particular organizations. And so that is, you want to know what those folks are, what's your ideal prospect. And you just want to always be working on filling that prospect bucket. And so consider who you're reaching out to, and it's never done. And so the tools that I just showed you, if you're in business to business selling, that is a fantastic way to do it. If you're in personal selling, a lot of this comes down to, like, if I'm in real estate or insurance or something like that, that is involved in going out and, networking in the community, being part of the Rotary Club or whatever, working through the community of people that are around us and networking through them, and networking through existing customers, and looking for referrals there. So prospecting takes a lot of different forms. It's not just picking up the phone and calling. It's reaching out through social media and doing other things. So there's a lot of different ways that we can prospect. I'm involved a lot in social selling. That's one of the ways that I do prospecting. So I'm socializing solutions back to my current customers and to influencers inside of those customers, and working through trade shows and other ways to get my name out there. I'm doing a podcast. This is part of the whole goal here. This is part of prospecting. So, all right, number five on the list. What is that? What is number 5? What is it? Let's figure it out. Come on, number 5. Lucky number 5. What could it be? Okay, number 5 on the list is Perfecting your objection handling. We talked about this last week a little bit about understanding your product completely. This is the opposite side of that almost. Remember that when we get into selling, we're going to have some objections. People are not going to go, well, you're too expensive, or, I don't like that product because it's blue, or it's left-handed and I'm right-handed. Like, you need to know and have a ready dialogue for objection handling. And objection handling is done a lot of different ways, but what it doesn't just come down to your product knowledge. Sometimes it does, but it's also good to know your competitor's product and have your research ready to that. And the thing that I found about objections is not a bad thing. Quite frankly, objections is really great, because what you are is you're kind of, people have biases, and then they have these biases that are not said. And so when you can get them out on the table and say, oh, well, that's a misconception, or that's not true, or that's here. No, you're right. That they do better at that. But the way that we look at it is this, and it helps. Basically, you're helping that person through that decision-making process. So it doesn't have to be this confrontational component. I talked about this a couple weeks ago. I was in a deal several years ago, and a large company, very, very large telecommunications company, and their CIO asked me a question: why are you better than? And then he picked this competitor, and he actually asked every one of us, and I was not, quite frankly, ready for that question. And I wasn't embarrassed. I had an answer, and the answer was not satisfying to him. But, I'm like, McDonald's doesn't really compete and advertise against Burger King. Burger King always advertises against McDonald's. When you're the number one in the business, you really don't compare yourselves to other companies. And I'm not, this is part of your responsibility as a buyer, is to evaluate what are the differences between the two. That was my answer. That was an okay answer, quite frankly, because it positioned us as a leader, and we're focused on our stuff. I don't really care about, who else is running the race here. That's part of your job as a buyer. Don't ask me to do your job here. So that's kind of my position. Well, with that said, we did actually win that deal. But it did point out to me that at a certain level, like, okay, you're a director now, you need to step your game up here. You do need to be able to have this kind of what is the compare and contrast story, and know your strengths, weaknesses. And so I went back actually and worked with my team through what are the differences, help educate me. And I found folks that used to work for the other company and my competitor that are now on my team. And we, had a little more competitive research and analysis. And so then I was ready to have a more thoughtful dialogue with somebody, not slamming the competitor, because that's kind of what I've always been. I was like, I don't really want to slam anybody or knock them down. They're good guys. But their product sucks. No, I'm just kidding. So it's just that way, you don't want to come off as crass or an angry person, or why would you even consider them? And so I just didn't have a really good way. So anyways, what I found is objection handling is this: when you have folks that are going to say no, they're going to say no, and they've got their list of reasons why they're going to say no. What you can do is you can it's like, if I overcome those objections, now those folks often become my biggest advocates. This is very true in tech sales. Happens all the time, where we're walking in the door, we're talking to the business decision makers, and the people that are saying no to this really typically are not the business people. They are the tech people, and the tech people are the ones going, this doesn't work with our, protocol, and we support 802.7b, and you guys are asking us to support this newer standard. I mean, all of the technical mumbo jumbo jargon that happens, and the technical people often want to halt this because it's going to impact their plans and stuff that the business doesn't really care about or understand. But in order to support them, we need to make sure that your stuff meets these standards, blah blah blah. And so I love those meetings. I love those kind of discussions. One is because the company that I work for, And when I worked for AT&T, it was the same thing. When you work for the leaders, those are great conversations because you're like, okay, oh, you want to see our certifications? You want to talk about our auditing policies and procedures. Like, there's very few chinks in the armor when you're the leader. There's a reason why you're the leader, and it often in the technology world is because of the technology that you sell. So it's usually just kind of having a really good dialogue with those folks, showing them really, quite frankly, that you care about their concerns and you empathize with their need to have systems that are reliable and supported and work with their long-term vision. That's a great conversation. It's not a confrontational thing. Now, with that said, there's definitely confrontational things that happen. And when you walk in the door, if you are that leader in that business, you will get called on the carpet. And sometimes right in front of all the business decision makers and God and everybody. And that IT person will challenge you publicly. And you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice to say, either we're going to have this conversation offline, or that person is such an influential person here, but he's completely wrong or she's completely wrong, and I need to take her down a notch here. So there is a little bit of gamesmanship and hierarchy kind of establishment that happens in some of these organizations. And I'm a strong enough, old enough dude to figure out when that is. It takes a little bit of discretion of when do you pull that card out and put that person in their place, basically, and put them down in front of other people. You don't want to do that. That's like the last thing. But if there's a lot of people in that organization that look to that person as the smartest person in the room, and they're obviously exactly wrong about what they do, you owe it to your company and yourself to make sure that you have to stand up. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to stand up for your company. And unfortunately, that stuff happens. Not often, though. Not often. And I'm usually ready for that. Because you've kind of identified that already. But that does happening. But once you get through the objections and overcome objections, those folks are your best advocates then. They're like, okay, we know how tough those guys are. And if the IT director or that technical shipping manager, or the middle managers in the organizations, they're the ones that are going to say no. If you can overcome those objections, then the business will keep moving forward. And the business decision makers and the people that are signing the checks, they're kind of looking over to that side of the room. Is this okay? And they're going, yep, it's great. We looked at it. It looks great. You are good to go. So that's the idea, is that overcoming objections. A lot of people ask about pricing. Pricing is probably the biggest objection you will always get. You really need to have a ready answer for that. That kind of relates back to value. And, people don't want the cheapest thing unless they are stopping at the dollar store, but if you're worth your salt anywhere, you've got to, understand the concept between price and value. And it's not just about the dollars and cents. It's about the value that you bring and the total cost of ownership. Back in the day, selling computers, a desktop computer was cost for most enterprise companies about $2,500. I remember the mid 90s. This is how it was, early to mid 90s. It's about $1,500 to $2,000 to buy a desktop computer. The total cost of ownership over 5 years for most of those computers, if you were buying a compact ProLinea computer and putting that network interface card on there, the token ring card in the back, and sticking it on the network, the total cost of ownership for the network operating system and the engineer to put it in there and the electricity to do it and the networking infrastructure to make that all work and the printing file server that you're going to need, all of that other cost, on the average for corporate America, the 5-year cost for a computer was about $30,000. So that is why early on in the computer business, no one had a problem spending $2,000 on a really high quality machine, because that was the least expensive part of this whole ordeal. The really expensive part was the networking infrastructure that was required to support all of that on there, the email services and the file and print services, the physical networking infrastructure that was needed in there. So it's one of those things that you then learn to how to have the conversation about value. And so if I had a better machine, I could lower that cost of ownership because the hard drive lasted longer, and a hard drive replacement in 5 years, if I could say, man, we're not going to probably have to replace, we're going to have to replace less than, you're going to cut your hard drive replacements in half in that 5-year period of time. That was a substantial savings. And so it justified a higher price often. And so it's that kind of cost value conversation. And that's the biggest one most of you will have to do, especially if at the beginning of this is too expensive. This is too high. I can't quite afford this. Those are, that's a value conversation. It's not a dollars and cents conversation. So, all right. Number six. What's number 6 on the list? You're asking yourself. Number 6. We use empathy to connect to people. If your customer doesn't trust you, if they don't trust you, then this is what you get. You get just crickets. They're just like, we're not gonna get use you for anything. And so empathy is so important. It doesn't just it's not just talking to customers. It's connecting with needs is what it really comes down to, connecting to their needs, and specifically what are they doing and where are they going and what's the challenges that they're facing every day. And so connecting means just being genuinely wanting to help people. And, helping people is very different than selling something to people. Nobody wants to be sold to. They want to buy stuff, and most companies love buying new stuff. Everybody loves new gadgets and stuff like that. But more importantly, they have problems that they want to solve, and they're looking for partners to help them solve those problems. That's very different than going out and buying something. And so when we can change that conversation away from this, here's the price for something, here's the list of things that it's supposed to functionally do, and here's the price for it. Do you want it? Yes or no? That is so not the game to be in. You want to be in the game of empathy, getting to know the customers. It doesn't mean you need to be friends with everybody. That's not what it always means. It just means you have to develop an understanding of the problem that they're focused on and look to support the problems that they're focused on. And I'll be frank with you, this is something that new salespeople often do better than older salespeople or people that are more seasoned in their company. New salespeople, because they approach it like, I'm just learning. I don't know yet. I'm learning the business. So help me understand, help me help you. And so that kind of approach often works really well. A seasoned salesperson often wants to shortcut the whole process and get right to I already know your business and I already know the answer to your questions you haven't even answered yet. And that's true. That can be very true. Somebody that's older, that's very experienced, can be very bad at this part. They need to learn this because they already know this stuff. They've already figured it out, but people are on that journey. And so they want to be understood, and you have to be able to let them tell their story, and you have to be able to connect that story to your problem or your solution. And so this really means genuinely wanting to help people and work better together to make that happen. The ability to pace yourself and put yourself in their shoes in order to guide them through that process is really instrumental in garnering loyalty and trust. And so the longer and happier a relationship is with a customer, the more fruitful it is for everybody. So one of the things that we often fall into is this kind of guilty thing that I'm selling you something, and not I'm solving your problem. And so we look at it often as a salesperson as a one and done situation. We sell this to a customer, they give us PDPs, and then we move on to the next prospect. But for the customer's view, when I bought my car, I own this car now for the next 5-ish plus years. I live with this every day. And so it's a relationship that I have with my car, basically. And so it's more than just the one-time transaction for me, for my purpose. And at every level, we're not selling, unless you're selling air or something like that, something that just immediately, evaporates. No, we're building a long-term relationship here. And the skill is really hard to teach, quite frankly, as an educator and as a teacher. It's hard to teach. And actually, unfortunately, our field tends to attract certain type of people that have zero empathy, that are not, they're just something mentally wrong. We attract a lot of sociopathic individuals. I've done work in prisons and systems, and been through a lot of training for that, and being a chaplain chaplaincy training. And when I was going through that about sociopathy, and I read a lot of books about crime and serial killers. And one of the things from a profile, as you start to read the profiles of a serial killer who has, or just somebody who's able to literally rob grandma and beat her up or something like that, like what kind of person does that? Is a person that has literally no empathy in their spirit or in their heart and soul. And so then I'm reading that and I'm like, this is very similar to some of the salespeople that I know and some of the business owners that I know, where they literally lack empathy in their emotional makeup. And it's either a lot of people have looked into this, is this genetic? Why is it like this? Like there's some people that just cannot empathize with other people. So empathy is difficult. It's very hard to teach. And but it's if you are listening to this, you are probably not one of those heartless salespeople. I'm just telling you, you want to develop some empathy. It takes a little exercise. It takes walking in the miles in somebody's shoes. And so it is just, this is the kind of stuff you learn in kindergarten that if you apply it to your adult life, you'll be successful. And this is the same kind of thing. This is the stuff you learned in Sunday school. Jesus telling us to, walk a mile, go that extra mile, and not to judge people until we could walk a mile in their shoes. And so this is the kind of thing that we want to do it. If you want to develop empathy, go on a vacation to a place, not a beautiful place in France. This last summer, I went to Ghana and spent about 3 weeks in rural Ghana. It gives you a tremendous sense for education and how much people are willing to, how much crap people are willing to put up with in life, because they want to educate their kids. And they want to have, so all the struggles that they're having, you're walking with them, you're kind of going, this is really hard. This is difficult. And the challenges that they're having in life. And so, go spend time with other people outside of, your little world. And that's a sure way to develop some empathy. I always said, and I always told my kids this, before you get into adulthood and get onto your career, you need to work in a restaurant and on a farm. And I did both of those. That's why I said this, because you get an appreciation for how difficult it is to work in a restaurant. Like, because I go to restaurants all the time, and some people are just unforgiving and mean to people that are in service in a restaurant, your servers and stuff like that. It's a hard job. It's difficult, and it doesn't pay really well. And it's easy to be mean and cynical in those jobs and to kind of give up. And so go work in a restaurant, and it will change the way that you approach and treat your people that come and bring food to you. And you will gather a different appreciation. The same thing with how hard it is to be a farmer, and how hard it is, and how you appreciate the effort that it takes to get food on your table. And so I did a lot of odd jobs. I worked, when I was in college, I worked for a temp agency. Pretty much throughout college. And then the nice thing about that was I could always come home and work. I would always have a job. There's temp agencies always will give you a job. So I've done so many different jobs. in those 4 years in college, worked in bottling companies. I've worked, in golf courses. I did so many different factory work, working on an assembly line for hours, and the monotony of that, and the pain in the hands that go with all of that kind of stuff. So developing empathy is something that we can do. It actually become more empathetic, and it just often becomes with listening, and then from there, once you develop that empathy, actually it shines through, quite frankly, to people that are very good at it. They don't even think about it. It's a second nature to people that are empathetic. All right. Oh man, we're just climbing along today. Number 7. What is number 7 on the list? Number 7 is, here we go. Whoa. Okay, quality. Focus on quality instead of quantity. So when you're kind of looking at closing, let's say just even this kind of stuff, tips and tricks, and thinking about all of the prospecting, like we were talking about earlier, the numbers game that we have, you really want to focus on quality of prospect, not the quantity, because at the end of the day, it's what you close, not how many you prospect, right? That's the number. So it's not technically how many at-bats you get, it's how many runs you hit in. It's so you could, have fewer chances, but if you had a better quality of prospect, then your close rate goes up higher. And so this is the thing. You want to really guard your time by focusing on quality and not the quantity. Don't make it just a numbers game. You want to be focusing and digging for prospects that meet your specific, unique selling proposition, that are positioned to buy your stuff, that might be biased already towards your solution or your system, and matching up with your needs from a selling standpoint, that your solution kind of matches already with what they're doing. So if I'm selling, something that fits in a particular market, just to go and market make in another area is maybe not the best way to get the growth that I need, or close the business that I need. So the time and energy that it takes is hard. It's hard. It's easier to just go, hey, we're going to prospect. Look how many phone calls I made. I'm doing awesome. And it's just a numbers game, and sometimes it'll show up. If I can actually this is the sharpening the saw analogy, right? You have the two lumberjacks, and one lumberjack is just over there just doing his darndest to chop down the tree. And he's got his saw out there, and he is just taking an hour and sharpen it. He's working to chop that tree down and get it cut down. And then there's a guy next to him that just is sitting under the tree, and he's sitting under the tree half the time. And he's just fiddling around with his saw. And then at the end of the day, the guy that worked so hard, and then you have the other guy that seemed to sit down on his butt half the day. They both have the same amount of logs that they did. And the guy that worked really hard, and he's like, dude, you're so lazy. You just sat there all day. And he said, what were you doing that entire time? I've just been working my butt off, man. Look how hard I work. And you just are so lazy, and you just got lucky, and you got the smaller trees, and I had the big ones. And so I had to work twice as hard. And he said, what were you doing with your time? And the guy that was seemingly lazy was saying, I was sitting there sharpening my saw, you idiot. And so this is what it is. This is about quality of work as opposed to quantity of work. A lot of times you hear work smarter, not harder. And so this is where this kind of rubber meets the road. Analytics tools, they can all help with this. This is why CRM systems are put in place to help understand the quality of a product or a process, prospect as we go into the selling process. So focusing on quality instead of quantity is a good thing. So there you go. All right. Number 8, man, we're getting through the list. This is a big list, isn't it? Maybe I should have just done 5. But you know what? This is a long format video. So it's going to take a few hours. It's all good. So stay consistent and have integrity. That is number 8 on the list. Stay consistent, have integrity. You know what? It is important that each of your customers get the same quality pitch of your product, and that your sales game is consistent across all those interactions. You have a play that you're executing on, and you want to have that consistency so that you can measure it successful or unsuccessful. Is this pitch work or doesn't it? And ensuring that sales interactions are consistently and delivered in such a way that exhibits a certain amount of discipline and dedication to our craft, your pitch becomes more effortless. And so what you'll end up doing is, as you go, you will kind of develop the scripts and the dialogue so that it does have that empathy. It does have all the qualities that we had talked about earlier. It does help the customer qualify themselves in or out of, hey, are you interested in going to that next step with us? So this is that ability to have consistency in it. The integrity part comes when your bosses expect monthly results and you put in the work and you're having challenges. That is what is going on. That is doing a little bit of coaching. I need some help with this. It is having the integrity of not just doing the calls, but doing the follow through and telling your customer you're going to be there at a certain time and making sure you are there at your time, and promising a customer that has features that solve problems and making sure that those are true. So your integrity as a salesperson is really important. And sometimes a good buyer will ask you a question. What they know the answer to is no. And if you say yes to that, like, hey, does it have does this thing have a support? Does this have a 4.8 PSI rating on it? And they know it doesn't. And they know your competitor does, but yours doesn't. That's well known in the industry. And you say, well, it probably does. Or, if you don't answer that in the negative, then you've just lost it. You've lost that integrity of your customer, and they're lost your trust because you're basically lying to them. So you don't want to lie. You want to, and as a salesperson, especially on that non-empathetic, if you're more on the, sociopathic side, well, this might be difficult for you when we're not being completely honest with our customers. That's not good. That's not good. You don't want to be caught that way. And so there's no secret weapon here. This is not a secret tip. Here it is. Be honest. Be honest. As much as the latest and greatest technology and tactics help you close deals, it takes good old-fashioned work to get your edge over the competitors. And that good old-fashioned work is just being somebody that you can be trustworthy. And especially, my friends, if we're selling personal services, this is a very big deal if you are selling into markets or selling and representing products that are more intimate with the customer. So if I'm selling a personal product like insurance, right, or financial services, the person that is going to service my account after I say yes and send you my money, that means you're going to know all this intimate stuff about me, like my blood type and want my money and financial services. So integrity is so important in that up front. And if we don't display integrity and the desire to make sure that the customers are understood and their needs are met, then you're going to lose it. You're going to lose it. All right. 2 more on the list, and then we're going to take a break. Whew. We're getting close to taking a break. Use a repeatable sales process you can measure. So this is where systems help, like KPIs matter. Utilizing a sales process that can be repeated, that you can monitor how effective your pitch is and how effective your quoting is. You can keep an eye on your numbers and see how you can tweak that process and affect the big picture. So this is what is important. The tweaking of the process is that it is it's a little fluid. It's not always the same. It's not static. And we learn this. We're learning this. Even, COVID has changed a lot of the ways that people sell and the way that people buy and use products. And so we have to be able to have flexible systems. We have to be able to allow for judgment, and we have to be able to allow a salesperson to be able to have judgment and exercise that judgment, and that the system isn't so rigid that we can't, move inside of that system as necessary. But it's important to understand the flow and the fluctuation of those numbers and KPIs. Like, how many prospects do we need to have in order to get X amount of proposals, and how many proposals to quote or proposals to closed customers do we have? Those are just three basic numbers. If you don't know those, you need to know those. Anybody that's in the financial side is going to ask those numbers. The marketing department needs to know how many leads they need to generate. They need to know that connection between how many impressions on the website, or how many clicks from the advertising get converted into leads, and how many leads get converted into prospects, and how many prospects get converted into proposals, and how many proposals get converted into sales orders, and how many sales orders get converted into second sales orders and loyal customers, and how many of those customers leave and turn off. Like, you need to know that entire customer journey, all those numbers in between there. If you're building a business today, you need to know those numbers. KPIs matter. They're important. Again, it's not like you can't adjust. In fact, that's what you should be doing in adjustment to that. You should be going, hey, our quote to close ratio is really low. And so that means we're talking to the wrong person, or something is wrong with our quoting. So our quoting, either we're too high. Why are we not converting quotes? Or why are we giving out too many quotes? Like, are we over quoting too early in the process? Those quotes are expensive. We have to have sales engineers. We've got to do, there's, a lot of stuff that goes into that. So the further you get into that sales funnel, the more expensive everything gets, and the cost of selling gets higher and higher. So if I can qualify earlier, maybe I need to send out less proposals and still have the same close rate. That might be solving the problem. We just are sending out way too many quotes. Anyways, there's a lot of different ways that you can interpret those numbers to take action, but that's important. Sales is this repeatable process. You can measure it, and then you can adjust along the way. But if you don't know, it's a big guessing game, and this is where numbers matter. One of my very favorite movies on this topic is the movie Moneyball. If you're in sales, in fact, next time we get together on YouTube, we'll see some scenes from Moneyball. Let's do that. Let's do Sales Director Reacts to Moneyball. Because that's what Moneyball was all about. It was all about kind of understanding the numbers and the KPIs and making data-driven decisions. And again, not in defense of great salespeople that use awesome judgment, that's awesome. But if you're new in the sales game and you don't have all that judgment, those numbers can really, 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 really be helpful. And to be able to take the action and respond to those is really important. So anyways, that is number 9. Use a repeatable sales process that you can measure. Hey, and number 10 on the list for today, this is the end of this particular segment, is seek out referrals. So you want to really look for referrals. And despite the advances in technologies over the last decade, a lot of things have not changed. And the one is that the word of mouth is still the best and most reliable way to reach new customers. Now, referrals happen many different ways in our modern thing. How many of us go on YouTube, go on YouTube or go on Amazon and look for product reviews? So that is word of mouth advertising. That is what social selling is all about. That's word of mouth advertising. And so if we can get our customer to use our product and talk about it online, holy cow, that is worth more money than most marketing companies or most marketing departments can do. And there's a simple reason for this. A few years ago, without going into all the detail, and maybe I will at another one, but it's called, there's a lot of study that's been done on this thing. It's called Edelman's Barometer of Trust. And Edelman's Barometer of Trust is Edelman is like a consulting agency that does like advertising and a lot of different things, but they're basically a research firm at this point. And so they have this, they call the Barometer of Trust. Go on the interwebs and look it up, the Barometer of Trust. And the Barometer of Trust will show you that about 10 years ago, there was a huge shift that occurred, and it was really with the advent of online shopping. And what happened is, up to that point, it was an expert telling a customer, this is what I think. And this was the most influential person in the buying process, was the expert. So, you would have experts and they would come in and tell you, here's the answer to your problem, and it's that product. And so you would, you'd have all sorts of scientific studies or use case studies or whatever, and that would show you how you changed it. Now, and so the advertising part was really important. That was your expert telling you, the Maytag man telling you, I'm the expert, I'm the Maytag guy. And so when we went and bought appliances and we went to the stores back then, were like the Sears, and there was a salesperson there, and they knew all about all of the washers and dryers, and you would go there and you trusted that person and they helped you make the decision. And so that was a thing. That was a thing for a long, long time. Now, with the advent of the internet, what changed was the ability to get a lot of different diverse opinions. And so I could go to a product on Amazon, or I could go onto YouTube now and see a product review of somebody actually using the product. And now Edelman's Barometer of Trust said that the most influential person that I trust in buying something is a person like me. And it's not an expert anymore. And so a person like me is more likely to be influential in my buying of something. So think about that. We are more likely to go out and buy a computer or a car based on the review of, Loverboy 72 that is that's doing the review. I'm going to read through all of those reviews. I'm going to look at the star ratings. I mean, this is what I do when I buy stuff. I went and bought recently a new edition. As you can see over there, I have a little lamp over in the corner right over here. So I wanted to get a new lamp. So I'm going on a lamp. I'm like, okay, Amazon lamp. There's 15,000 lamps on Amazon, right? Okay, I want prime delivery, something I can get in the next 2 days. I need it to be black and industrial, and I want something with a 5-star or 4-star reviews. That's where I start most things. And then I'm starting to read the comments in the first ones that are on the list, and I sort by the reviews and who has the most stars. And so I'm not looking, if you got crappy stuff, I'm not even looking at your stuff. It's all about sorting it to the top, and I'm starting at the top. And it's not so much how much it costs, because the difference in cost is like $5. It doesn't really matter. It's much more about, I need it to work, look good, easy to assemble. I want it to be reliable, get here on time, all the things. You read through that, you get a good sense of that. And so you trust the people online. If I want to buy something expensive, a car, a computer, I want to buy anything that's going to cost me money, I'm going to go right to YouTube and I'm going to look that up and, okay, who's the reviews? And I'm going to do all my research before I even talk to a salesperson. And so I bought a car over the summer. That's exactly how we did it. We started doing the research on what cars are available. This is what we're narrowing it down to. We're going on the YouTubes. We're looking at the 4 or 5 different folks that do very comprehensive reviews. And we're like, okay, that's the car for us. And then we're able to go and find that car and source it. So it's very interesting. So referrals now come through social media and the interwebs. And so we can seek out referrals. That's why I think it's so important, whether I'm selling insurance or whether I'm selling, $1 million valve systems, to have a social selling strategy, because this is where people learn about your products before, and word of mouth advertising is, it's been proven time and time again to be the least expensive and the most effective. So it's the most reliable way to reach new customers and earn their business. Period. Full stop. All right. So with that said, let's, so there's no finish line when it comes to this stuff in selling. Of course, there's no finish line. These are just some 10 top tips that you might think are really helpful and important. And Whether you're just getting started or doing this for decades, it's just that process. It requires you to evolve in order to stay competitive. And when you think you got it all figured out, things change. COVID comes along and the whole game is over with. So anyways, with that said, we're going to take another break and we are going to be right back after this. Ba, ba, ba. I know, YouTubers. All right, YouTubies. There's nobody. This is such a hilarious thing. It's so funny. Nobody is watching my YouTube channel right now. There's Zipola people watching my YouTube channel. I have nobody publicly chatting. And I knew this was going to happen. We knew this is what was going to occur. It takes, like I said, like 70 videos. I've got 2. So it's going to take 6 months before I get any traction on this channel. So it's hilarious. So with that said, let's get right back at it so I can get onto something that's really, really, really important to me today, which is the Michigan State, Ohio State football game, which is just starting. So we're going to come back. And anyways, so it's going to be fun. Here we go. Let's try the next one. All right. I got to get my next song. Anybody got a good suggestion on the next song? Let's try this one. Oh, that doesn't look. I think that's a good one. All right. That's the one we're going to use. All right. Here we're coming back now. Coming back. All right. That sounds like a Barry White song. All right, we are back. HustleIsTheHack.com. My name is Pierre Hulsebus, and hopefully you're having an awesome day. And we are going to continue with a couple things. I have a fun thing that I wanted to do here. Let's go here we are going to talk about universal technology truths. That is it. Let's see, if you're watching on the YouTubes, which if you're listening to my podcast, I'm streaming this live on Saturday mornings. And so you can also listen to it during the live event during the day. And so this is a little bit of a Chiron, we call like a Chiron quiz back in the day. Chirons used to be the thing, but these are universal technology truths. So I like to keep track of these over the period of time in life. What you like to do is you like to have certain things that you kind of establish as ground rules. And these are universal truths, and you follow those. This is like Peterson's, 12 rules for life. This is John Madden's pyramid of success. I call this the Pierre Hulsebus universal technology truths. And so we have a couple of technology truths. And technology truth number 1 is when in doubt, reboot. And if that doesn't work, reinstall. It's so true, isn't it? Isn't that true when we have got a problem? And the story goes like this. The story goes something like this. When you are driving in your car, and a fella comes along and he says, the car it's breaking down. Something's wrong with the car. It stops at the light and it dies. And the engineers, you got 4 engineers in the car with you, and one of them is an electrical engineer. And he's like, oh, let's check the battery, because I think the battery probably is, something's wrong with the battery. And you're like, no, it's not the battery. It's something else is going on. And so you check the battery, nothing's wrong. Chemical engineer, we're out of gas. It's probably what the problem is. And we check when we got the gas. And the third guy in the car, he's a computer engineer, and he says, I got it. This is what we got to do. We all have to get out of the car, run around the car, get back in the car again, and start it up. And That we do that, and then we do that, and the car starts right back up. See, that's a computer engineer's approach to a problem, a technical problem. When in doubt, just reboot the computer. And or the other thing is uninstall and reinstall. That's the thing. I, in fact, this week had this awesome experience. I got a new computer last summer, or not last summer, this summer, over the summer. A beautiful top of the line Microsoft Surface Book 3 with 32 gigs of RAM and a terabyte of memory of solid disk space. So top of the line laptop, fantastic machine. Upgraded to Windows 11 from Windows 10, and went in the middle there through a beta cycle. As stupidly as I did that, I chose to go through the beta cycle for Windows 11, which was awesome because I wanted to test some of the software that I use. Bad idea. So when we got to the actual production version, my machine was super duper slow, and a lot of stuff didn't work, and so I just had to reinstall everything. So I just reinstalled Windows 11. I had a really awesome backup system. We use OneDrive. Microsoft uses OneDrive. If you're not using OneDrive, it's the smartest thing in the world. I literally wiped the machine from the face of the earth as if I had bought it from scratch, installed Windows 11. It took about 45 minutes to do, and then logged in with my credentials, used my two-factor authentication as a Microsoft employee, and within 20 minutes, I had most everything back on my computer. It takes a little while to synchronize all the backup stuff, like all my documents and stuff like that take a little while. There's gigabytes of data there. And so, it just takes a while for it to sync, and it's all good. And it's now the thing is snappy and fast. And that's what happens when in doubt, reinstall. So that's the way that works. So that's universal truth number 1. I've got 5 universal truths. Universal truth number 2, and not everybody's going to like this. Hate the Mac. Just hate the Mac. It's a default position to have. And believe me, I'm training people all the time, and so I'm in the training class, and I'm like, right, and then you click on this, and then you do this thing, and you're telling them, hey, this is the thing you got to do, and you say, okay, and then you touch this, and then he's like, oh, it's not working for me. It's like, well, why isn't it working? What are you using? Oh yeah, well, I'm using Safari. It's like, dude, I hate the Mac. Don't use Safari. Use Edge. I know you don't like Edge, but let's install Edge on your machine, and believe me, all of the stuff will work just fine. And sure enough, let's just reinstall and install the Microsoft application, and there you go. It works just fine. And that's because we test with that application, and that's the platform we use, and it's the preferred platform. And I'm telling you also, just from before I worked for Microsoft 6 years ago, I still had the same philosophy. It's served me well for nigh on these 30 years. And the reason is because there's always something. It's always something with you Mac people. It's always something. Hey, we want to install, we need Photoshop. Okay. So, because, we're in the art department, so we need Photoshop. Guys, we're on a token ring network. There's token ring or Ethernet connection for that. No, we have our own network protocol that we use. It's called Apple Talk. And so we need to have our own special printers and our own special network and topology and gateways for, out of the 400 people that work here, these 4 people need this fancy application. And so you just end up going, you guys are morons. Can I run Photoshop on a PC? Well, yeah, but it's not as nice. And it's like, let me tell you what I'm going to do. Let's bring the Adobe people in and have them talk about the delta between the Apple version and we're not going to do that. So anyways, so you get into this, and this is why you hate the Mac traditionally. And I actually technically almost purchased. I had to purchase when I started my podcast, I really seriously considered actually getting an Apple M1 and going down the road of getting an M1 because I needed a multimedia machine that had good power in it, that could be portable. I could then do video editing on it and stuff like that. And so I was looking at my own, personal use of a computer. And so I just was so close to getting that Apple machine, and I didn't do it. I bought a beautiful Samsung. I have this beautiful beautiful Samsung laptop, and I love it. It's so wonderful. And no, we're not going down the road there. We hate the Mac. Like I said, you can't go wrong with that philosophy. It will work. Okay, this is just a 101 stuff, but it's so true. It's so true. Before I send a tech out, did you check the power cord? So you would not believe the amount of cords I have connected in my environment. Actually, I could show it to you here. Can I show it? I can't show it to you. I have a. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to show it to you. I won't show it to you. I'll show it to you later. You've seen it on my Instagram, the cable management system. Actually, when you look in my office, you'll see boxes, these boxes that are over here, right down there, all those boxes. That's primarily what's in those boxes is cables and cords. I literally on my desk, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have literally 30 cables that are on my desk right now. 30 cables that are on this. I have 4 computers that I have on my desk. I have a podcast machine. I have my video switcher. I have my Stream Deck and docking stations, cameras, 3 monitors, microphones, and every one of those things needs power cords and cables to connect them all together. They're all connected together. And so it's kind of a lot of cords. And so if something isn't working, a lot of times it's just the cable. You don't need to go and buy a new machine. You just need to fix your cable. Yeah, so that's universal. Check the cables. All right. If you're in sales, this is the one that will always get you. Don't talk to your spouse about commissions until you get the check. Like, dude. I have lied to my wife so many times about this, unintentionally, not intentionally. Like, dude, oh, honey, we're working on this deal. It's so big. It's just giant. I'm going to get an awesome check, for this. And this will be the biggest check of the year. And I actually had this, I violated this summer. I had several deals that I was working on that were supposed to land over the summer and before the end of the fiscal year, and they did not. And so they did not. They died at the end, and they got extended out. It's not uncommon in these giant enterprise deals when you get to the end of the year. Things don't work out from a fiscal standpoint, and companies give big discounts at the end of their fiscal year. Those discounts expire. Companies, the customers aren't always ready for that because they're not in their buying cycle. And so anyways, this is what happens. So it's fun. It's a fun thing. But so this is what you do. Just don't talk to your spouse about your commission check. Because I mean, it started when I first got my first commission checks. You're like, oh, honey, I sold $100 worth of stuff today. I made $100 today. I remember those conversations when I worked in retail and got paid commission. I made $100 today. And then the next day you'd walk in, of course, you didn't make anything. And so, your spouse is expecting, man, you're making a couple $100 a week, $100 a day. That was awesome. I was like, yeah, I'm just telling you about the good days, not the bad days. So this is what I'm saying. I usually don't talk about the commission until I have the check in my hand. And so don't do that. That's the sure sign that you're going to get in trouble. All right. This is a Chris Rock quote. So I ripped it right off from him, but because he would say, just because you can do it doesn't make it a good idea. And when it comes to technology and the truth of technology, nothing could be truer. Just because you can do it doesn't make it a good idea. A lot of folks like to change just because they are bored. They want to change something because they don't like the color of something. Like, just because you can change it doesn't mean you should change it. And it doesn't make it a good idea. Just because we can do that, maybe we shouldn't do that, might be the better answer to the question. So that's the universal truths there for the hustle is the hack. So that's hilarious. So funny stuff. I know. Otherwise you're going to be in trouble. Your custom, anyways. All right. So what else is going on? Oh, we're talking about the universal truths. I wanted to mention, we're going to call it instead of the John Madden Pyramid of Greatness, or the Ron Swanson Pyramid of Greatness, which actually I have behind. I have it up on my wall behind this painting here, is the Ron Swanson Pyramid of Greatness, which is fantastically hilarious. We're going to call it the Pierre Hulsebus Rhombus of Failure. And this is conventional wisdom that is inaccurate and will lead you to certain demise. And this one here is one that you see every once in a while in motivational. Only dead fish go with the flow. Only dead fish go with the flow. And this is a idea that, hey, you should be different. Don't be conformed. Christians, we read that scripture and it says, don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And we all want to be, swim against the current. We want to be the leader, the person that's ahead, that goes ahead of everybody else, that sets the pace. And I'm not just going with the flow, but I'm swimming up against the current. And one thing that we found, this can be very bad advice. Actually, this is the kind of advice that can also lead to tremendous disaster. And why is that, Pierre? What is it that would lead this to disaster? Well, there are some things that you should be aware of. The way that fish behave. And fish love to be in a school. And schools of fish, I've done this. I've been fishing out. You go out into the ocean, like off Catalina Island. I did this a couple of years ago. This is such an awesome, epic day to go fishing. The fish, what they do, the mackerel, they go in this big, like school of fish, balls. They're this big ball of fish. And then, the sharks and the big predator fish, they kind of swim through that, and that's how they get there. So there's safety in numbers. Sometimes the flow of the fish is actually the safest place to be, because the fish, this is their behavior. They go with the flow. That is the thing. And so it's the odd fish that's going upstream against the flow. That's the one where the bear is waiting to snatch them right out of the air, as they're being so enthusiastic and leading the way and going against the flow. There's certain demise there. So sometimes there is safety in numbers. This does get back to some of the things that we were talking about earlier, which is when we are using numbers to drive some of our decision. We're making decisions based on, as buyers, we kind of go with the flow. Buyers go with the flow. They're not always out to buy the most current, newest thing that goes against the trends. They want to buy, they want comfort and safety sometimes. And that comfort and safety comes from reading reviews of everybody else in the world that's already tried this and says, yeah, this is fine, or this sucks, stay away from it. The crowd actually is called crowdsourcing is the term. The crowd actually sometimes offers safety. And this is how betting works, actually, parimutuel betting, when we manage risk. Sometimes it's less risky to go with the flow. It's sometimes less risky to go with flow. And if you say, hey, we have a proven sales methodology, and if you follow this methodology, our salespeople typically always do good. And you say, no, I'm going to go my own way. I'm going to make it up as I go along. I'm going to use my judgment and experience to, close business here. And then at the end of the day, you end up, maybe you do get a couple sales, but how you got there, you can't share that with anybody. Nobody else can learn from you. You can't share your methods or models because you made it up. You didn't keep track of it. You went against the flow. I don't use those systems. I'm my own person, and so screw you, Mr. Boss. All you care about is the numbers, and the only number that matters is what I close. And so, anyways, that's the idea. Rhombus of failure is only dead fish go with the flow, and sometimes it's good to go with the flow. It's good to when you're starting out, it's a safe place to be, and it's a good place to learn. I'm not saying be a gray man and just, don't make a difference. You make a difference. You can make a difference. You can be innovative and creative. That's what I've been saying. I say that all the time. Like empathy and creativity, really important. But that doesn't mean you have to just buck the tide. And sometimes the best path is the most well-worn path. And not always do you need to be a pioneer, especially when you're starting out in the game. You need to get some mojo going. You need to have some wins. And sometimes that comes from just following the well-worn paths, knowing where success lies. So, all right, what's next on the list? Oh, the question. So we had a question. We had a question from the audience that came in, and it's a CRM question, actually. They're asking a question, and I don't want to talk about names here. Currently, at our firm, we use this particular version of a software, and with a bunch of crappy third-party add-ins that we can see emails for clients. We'd love to build some simple workflow processes, not knowing the state of another CRM system now. Would this product work for us? If so, could we start to make a business case for a change? Thanks in advance for your thoughts. So really the question here is about two different applications supporting the ability to see emails for clients. So one of the things that a lot of us are customers of, and we aren't aware of this, but when you are in sales and using certain systems, when I use my system to send an email, I can actually check if you clicked on that, and I can actually understand if you clicked through to that or how long you read it. And this is just the telemetry of the internet. This is why the internet is so powerful. And different marketing tools that integrate with the CRM systems. When we use our CRM systems to kind of back up our marketing efforts, then and you can marry those two together. That's fantastic stuff as a seller. So for this particular one, I would say definitely want to look at this newer environment where it's native. And this is one of the tricks nowadays, is when you can look at it as there's a concept in business called jobs to do. Jobs to do. And you can go look this up. It's a concept around systematic thinking. And a lot of research has been done on this for business work around jobs to do. And so it's defining that persona and that use case of a specific job. And so here, for example, this job to do is the job to do of a sales organization is to generate interest in my product. I need to perform an email campaign that connects the email that I send to somebody to the website that delivers more information, allows customers to take an additional action, and a CRM system then that allows the customer, when they click that button, please follow up with me. I'm very interested in this right now. Can you please follow up? And now I want to get engaged actively in the selling process. That is a job. That is a job. That is what email marketing effectively is able to do, to measure the messages that are in there, to maybe send out to different segments of your customers, different versions of the same message that land in the same place. So you can see, like they call that A/B testing. Maybe does this message have more appeal than this appeal? Be able to segment the messages, understand the timing of the days of the week or the hours of the day that you deliver those messages, which ones are more important, which ones get better responses than others. Like, this is the kind of information that is the job to do, is to be able to connect your CRM system into your marketing management system. And if you can do, and studies are showing that effectively, if you can do these jobs to do on one system, as opposed to multiple systems, you are going to have a better world. Even if the individual features aren't as good in a system that does everything on one thing versus having a best of breed solution, having it on one platform is typically more effective. And the reason is often because it makes the team work together because we have more than one person, involved in it. We have the follow-up people, we have the marketing message people, and we have the web landing page people. Those are 3 different users inside of the system. And instead of them all being on 3 different systems, which is what they would typically be on, we would have them on one system to do all of that. And so now we can all grow together. The numbers are there in real time because they're all across the same environment, and we don't have to worry about a whole IT infrastructure to divide and build integrations between all of that stuff that makes it more expensive. So so you get me? We got one system. So I would say that would be the only main reason to change. If you could get these on one environment, those 3 actions and those 3 departments working together on this thing to do, you definitely would, that would be the need to change. You could probably most likely show a reduction in expense as a result of moving to one system, and you would have better adoption across all, and really internally accountability is what it comes down to. What is happening in these systems is we are making the marketing department and the sales department one. They are not 2 different departments. There's accountability now. Here's the leads that came through, and here's the sales that got derived from those leads. So it's not, so we're looking at what's my close rate for the quality of leads that I had. Back in the day, it was, here's the Excel spreadsheet of the leads that we just got. We went and bought a list, or we went and generated a website, and here's sales department. You got to go follow up on these guys. And so the sales department would go, these leads suck. They're horrible leads. We don't like them. And there would be anecdotal, like nobody called and nobody returned our calls, and half these leads were terrible. And there was only 2 that actually closed out of that pile. And they're like, okay, which 2? Well, we don't know exactly what list they came from. And, so the accountability between the marketing campaign and the sales results that came was not available. It was very hard to do that kind of accountability. But now, if it's all in one system, we can have incredible level and detail and accountability between those 2 systems. So if your marketing outbound marketing engine is natively integrated or natively part of your customer management system, that would be the ideal scenario and an ideal situation. So there you go. That's the answer. If it's on one system, go for it. If not, if it's not on one system, then it might not be worth the effort. It might not be worth the effort to change it. So that's my idea. What do you think? Was that a good answer? I think it was. I think it was a good answer. All right, what's next on the list? Oh, we're getting close to the end here, people. We're getting close to the end. We did a rhombus of failure, universal truths. Oh, I know what we wanted to do. We had one more little thing that we kind of maybe was thinking would be a good thing to talk about. What would that be, Pierre? What would that be? And it's a little bit of coaching. And so I'm going to call this Coaching Corner, the Coach's Corner. I need a theme song for Coaching Corner. I don't have one, but let's just, there you go. This is the Coaching Corner theme song. It doesn't even sound right. Da-da-da-da. Okay, Coaching Corner. So we do have sales coaches that are out there that listen to our awesome award-winning podcasts. And one of the things that coaches have to do all the time is figure out how to manage change in the way the organization teaches salespeople. So this is what coaching is all about. It's really about not just telling people what to do, but helping empower them to make the right judgments and the right decisions. And so that comes through training on systems and methodologies and dialogue, right? Basically what we talk about on this thing. And so on this podcast, and the expectations today, this is it. Here's your quote of the day. Expectations are completely different than they were 2 years ago. So we have got to step back and say, it's a different world, baby. It's totally different. the way that we used to be able to teach and train people and bring them up is very different than it is today. And the expectations that we have with the systems that we use to teach people are also different than they are today. There is a tremendous amount of change, and we as coaches and managers need to also understand that change. And it's more important than ever. The investment that line managers and those in training and learning develop need to do is it's in a different approach. You really need to start taking a different approach. And it's a critical success factor, and it goes down to everything. It goes not only to how you deliver training, but how you incentivize people and how you actually work with people now. Because, in addition to all the changes that are happening in the customer base, you have to start to accept those changes in the way that your organization. We need to, and this is a more reliance on technology, quite frankly. We have technologies like the one that we're using here of conferencing and video conferencing and Teams and Zooms and all the different things that connect our teams together to help us continue our dialogue. And in the way that we call in the customer base in call centers, they call it omni-channel, where the customers are able to choose text or web or phone calls or online chat as a way to interact with the company. We have to do the same thing with our people. We're able to capture the channels that people like to communicate in, and because the level of flexibility that we need now to give our people and have with our people is changed. We've talked about this in the past, where it's not just it's not the same. Like, expectations are totally different, right? So we have to get familiar with these technologies, and we need to be able to deliver insight. And why do people quit jobs? Why is there this big reset in quitting? And it's because their managers suck. And the managers are doing the same stuff that they used to do, but now we add the pressure of COVID and working at home and not in an office, and not being able to go to customer sites, and not being able to go to team meetings in person, and all of that, all this workshop and micro, we need to kind of modulate that a lot. And if companies aren't willing to kind of help modulate that, then they're going to be out. People are quitting. They're quitting right and left. So there's a lot of things to be acquired via learning, micro learnings, learning nuggets, stuff like that. Back in the day, it was like workshops and in person, and we were able to get people's complete attention for a long period of time, days on end. It's just not doable anymore. We cannot get that same kind of attention and focus in our training than we used to. And this is happening all around. So sometimes we still need face-to-face meetings if we can have them. So you got to pick your poison, like maybe kickoff meetings or product launches. Those are interesting, but a lot of the coaching and the ability to work with people have to be done more in less community kind of things and more on the one-to-one. It just takes, you have to be able to bend over backwards and accommodate folks in the changes that they're also experiencing in their own personal lives as a result. And the pandemic doesn't alter the need that we have, but it alters the method that we do. So the lessons of COVID is that human beings need companies to flourish in this. We need our companies to be, like exciting, and we need them to feel like they're growing and they're personally enriching them. And if that's not happening and we're not creating those cultural opportunities, then we're going to lose our folks to companies that do. In the future, we need to have a kind of a diverse set of training options, and companies really have to modernize themselves and adopt those hybrid approaches. And this has been coming for a long time. I can tell you, as somebody that's worked out of their home office for 10 years and has not stepped his foot into a corporate office to do his daily job. I travel around to our company offices to do my job, but I can observe this from the outside. I can say, we have to modernize our hybrid approach to learning, because not all that in-person stuff, it's not all going away, but it's incredibly challenged, and we're not able to get the time and attention. So what's the advice to you, Mr. Coach? Expectations are different than they were 2 years ago. And what got you successful as a coach and a manager, if you were in that role for the last 2 years, up to the pre-pandemic portion, is not going to get you beyond this pandemic. Those skill sets you're going to have to modulate them. And a lot of the answer is being able to be flexible with people and get some, that hybrid approach, as we're saying, that hybrid approach between that kind of in-person stuff, if we can do it. But we have to personalize, just like customers, we have to personalize that a person's experience as a salesperson and as one of your coaches, if you will, or as you're coached. Anyways, well, what else? That's it. I think that's it. I think it was a great show. I really do. Nobody's watching online. This is so funny. This is so hilarious. I'm literally committing to doing this with nobody online. I've spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars in technology here, so I could show up and do a live stream and nobody's watching. But that's the way it always goes. That's just life in the fast lane. But with that said, let's close her out. Let's close her out, and let's go. And here we are. It's the end of the show. My name is Pierre Holsebus. You have been listening to Hustle is the Hack. And I am excited to help you learn more about selling and get your sales game on. You can check us out at hustleisthehack.com. And if you're watching on the YouTube, please subscribe and like and make a really snide comment down there that we can get a big flame war and then we can blow up and cut viral and stuff like that. That'll be exciting. So anyways, I hope you're having a great day, and I'll talk to you all really soon.